I want you all to take a moment to reflect on this headline, to appreciate this headline as I take a sip of my coffee. Ah, that is sweet, but not as sweet as this headline. Let me tell you what. Disney losing confidence in Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, due to Spider-Man. It's almost like this is what the YouTubers have been saying for months now about Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, that we don't buy into what the mainstream media is telling us, that Captain Marvel, Brie Larson is the next big thing, that it's the hype of the future, that she is just everything to Marvel. She is everything that Marvel's ever dreamed of having for their MCU. I never bought into that, and a lot of YouTubers never bought into that as well. Unless you are part of the Brie bot crowd or the SJW crowd or anything like that, you can see through the BS. And we have all these rumors and reports and alleged, reports that Disney has been cooking books as well when it comes to some of their profits and stuff like that, which kind of fits into the whole thing with how on earth did Captain Marvel make over $1 billion when it wasn't even that well received. The audience did not like it very much. If you go to Rotten Tomatoes, it has like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes right now as well. Captain Marvel, Brie Larson are not likable characters, and Brie Larson's not a likable person. There are very, very few people who actually like her in the general audience of people that go see the Marvel movies. So we're going to go ahead and get to this article here. This is pretty fascinating stuff, and I'll kind of give my commentary as we read it. So, a new rumor claims that Disney has lost confidence in Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, which has to do with the loss of Spider-Man to Sony. Now, this is very interesting. It's claimed that Disney, Marvel Studios, and Kevin Feige were going to use Spider-Man and Tom Holland to help make Brie Larson and Captain Marvel more likable in the MCU, but now that Spider-Man is gone, Disney is worried about the future of Captain Marvel. They wanted to use Spider-Man as a shield, as camouflage, to continue to try to prop up Captain Marvel at the expense of Spider-Man. Which kind of makes sense why they are even more upset with the fact that Spider-Man is not going to be returning to the MCU. Who else can they rely on to prop up Captain Marvel in such a way? They don't really have any other iconic characters per se that are part of Phase 4. I mean, they don't. Spider-Man's an iconic character. I'd say that Iron Man, Captain America have become iconic characters because of the MCU, but I wouldn't really say that there's anybody else part of the MCU at this time that is necessarily an iconic character, besides maybe Hulk, but even then, like, it's kind of, I mean, like, Hulk just isn't really that big of a deal in the MCU, to be honest. So they don't really have anyone else who can really prop up Captain Marvel the way that they want to prop her up. They have been pushing for so long that Captain Marvel is the face of the MCU. She is the hope of the future. She is the savior of women and all of these types of things. They've been propping her up in this way. Kevin Feige said on multiple occasions that she was indeed going to be the face of the MCU. But she doesn't even have a movie in Phase 4. How does that add up? Yeah, people could say, yeah, well, Black Panther 2 isn't going to be in Phase 4 either. And yeah, but Black Panther 2 hasn't been hyped or propped up as the face of the MCU moving forward. If he was, then yeah, I would be like, okay, that's kind of fishy that Black Panther 2 isn't part of Phase 4, if he is indeed the future. Iron Man had a movie in pretty much every phase, right? He had one in the first phase, in the second phase, so I guess he had Iron Man movies in the first and second phases, but then he also was a part of a lot of movies in Phase 3 as well, including Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and he was still a big part of Far From Home, even though he wasn't in it. So, Iron Man has still been around, and he is always there. You always feel the presence of Iron Man, even when he isn't even in the movies. Iron Man is always there. He is always a part of the MCU. But Captain Marvel is a completely different story. I don't really see how they're going to be able to continue to prop her up in the MCU in the way that they are hoping. Interestingly enough, as seen in Spider-Man Far From Home, Tom Holland is the first to have name-dropped Captain Marvel in the MCU. What is also interesting is that Brie Larson was supposed to be the face of the MCU going forward. Exactly what I was talking about. The new leader of the Avengers and the most powerful character in the MCU. However, Kevin Feige didn't announce Captain Marvel 2 as being a part of their Phase 4 slate, which is heavily female-oriented, and Feige only hinted at the sequel being announced in the future. There's something going on here. There is something going on here. There's no way that they shouldn't have their face of the MCU part of Phase 4. There's no way. There's people that are talking about her having cameos and things like Ms. Marvel. Okay, it's a cameo. Like, if she is the face of the MCU, why is she getting cameo roles and not getting her own full-blown movie? Doesn't add up. It should also be pointed out that Marvel is apparently bringing back Robert Downey Jr. for their Phase 4 plans. There you go. Can't even let go of Robert Downey Jr., who is still the face of the MCU. Even after Iron Man is dead, he is still continuing to be the face of the MCU. They're still continuing to drag him back. I'm not happy about it. I think that they should just let Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man character just be done. He has completed his chapter. It is finished. Let him rest. But they don't. They can't, because they know that he is still the one who brings in the money and the audiences. Obviously, if Brie Larson was the new face of the MCU going forward, Captain Marvel and Carol Danvers would be a big part of Phase 4. Presently, they are not. Insiders have filled in the Overlord DVD YouTube channel that all is not well with Captain Marvel at Disney and that the studio has lost confidence in the character. Does not surprise me in the least bit, but they can't say that publicly because that will completely destroy their narrative, right? So they can't say that. They can't actually come out and say anything like that. Disney is having Brie Larson fatigue, and they have lost confidence in her and in the direction they're moving with Captain Marvel, the YouTuber claims, who stresses this is to be considered a rumor at this time. Marvel had plans for Captain Marvel, but those plans were utterly derailed by the loss of Spider-Man to Sony. Interesting. The YouTuber goes on to state that Marvel went on to realize that Captain Marvel is a little stiff and a little bit unlikable. Really? You don't freaking say. So Marvel was counting on pairing her up with Spider-Man in order to humanize and balance her out. Wow. Well, they completely screwed that up, didn't they? The YouTuber then goes on to say a reason that Sony may not have wanted Spider-Man to continue in the MCU is because of Kevin Feige's politically correct route he is taking. Phase 4, which, among other things, sees Feige race bend and gender swap classic Marvel characters, which happened in the Captain Marvel movie to an extent. So, Sony saving Spider-Man from Disney and Marvel. Regarding Sony, the YouTuber claims that, unfortunately for Marvel, Sony has other plans for... that's supposed to say plans, I'm assuming. For Spider-Man, plans that don't involve Spidey being second best and a cuck to Brie Larson and Captain Marvel. Well done on Sony. If this is indeed true, if all of this is indeed... I mean, I've been praising Sony for a while now for removing Spider-Man from the MCU. I've been praising them for that. I think that that is the best and smartest decision that Sony could make. And it makes sense. And once again, we see a very, very common third wave feminist theme with the whole Captain Marvel situation, where in order to prop up Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, they have to downgrade and tear down Spider-Man and Tom Holland. That is like, you know, that is third wave feminism 101 right there. And that is exactly what it sounds like they were trying to do with Captain Marvel and Spider-Man. And, you know, it doesn't, none of this surprises me. You know, Marvel is continuing to move in this woke direction. And none of this surprises me, to be completely honest. Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, Spider-Man rumor sounds likely. And now we are getting these reports as well that Disney is considering buying Spider-Man from Sony. So they're not even going to be trying to figure out like a new plan for basically keeping the rights to have him in the MCU or anything. They want to just full out buy Spider-Man. And I mean, to Sony, I just want to say, don't do it. Keep your character, because you will regret it in, like, I don't know, 5 years time. You will regret selling Spider-Man to Marvel, to Disney. Keep Spider-Man. You have one of the most iconic characters of all time in your possession right now. And if Sony is smart and they continue to build their Spider-Verse, they take their time, they try to cultivate a really well-developed Spider-Verse around Spider-Man, and they keep their hands out of the woke nonsense that Marvel is continuing to slip into. If they do that, then they will be successful, and people will continue to go see Spider-Man movies. And I think that is the best direction for Sony moving forward. Disney and Marvel are in a mess right now. They really are. And they're trying to figure out how to bounce back after ending phase 3, after ending the Infinity Saga. So they're trying to figure out what kind of direction they want to go in from here. And the direction that they are deciding to go in is not going to be a good direction for them moving forward. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. What do you think about Disney losing confidence in Captain Marvel? Brie Larson does not surprise me in the least bit at all. Spider-Man, you can't use Spider-Man to try to prop up Captain Marvel. It's not going to work out. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you all very soon in another video. Talk to you later. Bye.
With my heart's desire.